Good morning, All Souls. I am Eileen Kinney, President of the Board of Trustees, and you may notice that things look a little different up in the sanctuary this morning. All parts of our service today, from the greeters to the chalice lighting to the music and the prayers, are all being led by a board trustee. Our reason for doing this is to continue to strengthen the board's support of you, our congregation and guests, and to help ensure that you know that we are here to represent all of you. You have elected a board of trustees who are smart, talented, and dedicated. And
That's right.
Here's the and let me state the obvious. We are not professionals like our fabulous ministers or our worship team, so it is entirely appropriate that we are leading a service during a month whose theme is grace.
There we go.
Our trustees are participating both live in person and in recorded meditations, and we are just so excited to be in this service with you this morning. We welcome our online viewers and everywhere members watching from all over the world. We are so glad that you have joined us this morning. And if you're on Facebook or Zoom, please drop your prayer request or your joys, your concerns in the chat so that in a moment we can light a candle and hold space for you in the sanctuary. If you are here for the first time or if you are new to All Souls, we welcome you. The ushers are here with a gift for you. As they come down the aisles, just raise your hand so that they will know where you are and keep your hands up until you receive your gift. You are also invited for some light refreshments and a chance to visit with our Welcoming Souls team in the Sonnen Library, just outside the sanctuary to the left after the service. We would love to get to know you better. And if you are online, please consider staying for our coffee hour and conversations immediately after the service. I invite you now to stand as you are able for our invocation and covenant. This is indeed a day that God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Let us count our many blessings, and let us be grateful for the capacity to see, hear, feel, and understand. Let us be grateful for the incredible gift of life, and let us be especially grateful for the ties of love which bind us together, giving dignity, meaning, worth, and joy to all our days. Please join us in our covenant that is printed in your order of service. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Welcome to All Souls, where we love beyond belief.
From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land by every tongue.
Before you take your seat, and as our chalice lighter comes forward, please take a moment to greet someone near you.
Good morning. Good morning. It's so wonderful to see everyone greeting each other and being here together in community, and I hope you'll continue that after the service. I'm Shirley Vincent, and I'm going to do chalice lighting. So, we light our chalice to recognize and honor the capacity we each have to recognize brokenness, to seek remediation, and to accept compromise. We celebrate the resilience of the human spirit, which makes it possible to meet challenges that at first may seem insurmountable. We light our chalice to signify our commitment to support one another in our personal and spiritual quests for wisdom and understanding. May the light remind us to offer forgiveness, generosity, and love to all.
Good morning, All Souls. My name is Roz Elder, and I get to read the story for all ages. The Invisible Boy is the name of the story. Can you see Brian, the invisible boy? Even Mrs. Carlotti has trouble noticing him in her classroom. She's too busy dealing with Nathan and Sophie. Nathan has problems with what Mrs. Carlotti calls volume control. He uses his outside voice inside too much. Sophie whines and complains when she doesn't get her way. Nathan and Sophie take up a lot of space. Brian doesn't. When the bell rings for recess, Micah and JT take turns choosing kids for their kickball teams. Well, the best players get picked first, then the best friends of the best players, then the friends of the best friends. Only Brian is left waiting and hoping. JT glances in Brian's direction and just as quickly looks away. We've got enough players for each team, he tells the others. Let's play ball. In the cafeteria, Madison and her friends talk about her birthday party. Oh, the rope swing over the pool was awesome, says JT. Yeah, so was the waterside, adds Fiona. That was the best pool party ever. I'm so glad you guys had fun. Everybody did except Brian. He wasn't invited. At choosing time, while the other kids play board games and read, Brian sits at his table doing what he loves to do best. He draws fire-breathing dragons, scaling tall buildings, space aliens locked in intergalactic battles, greedy pirates digging for treasure, and superheroes with the power to make friends wherever he goes. On Sunday morning, Mrs. Carlotti introduces Justin, a new student, to the class. Brian smiles shyly at him. Some of the other kids sneak looks at Justin, trying to figure out if he's cool enough to be their friend. They haven't quite made up their minds yet. At lunch, Madison and JT watch Justin eat with chopsticks. "What's that?" asks Madison as she points at Justin's food. "It's bulgogi." "Bul what?" "Bulgogi. It's Korean barbecued beef. My grandma made it for me. It's really good. You want some? There's no way I'd eat booger. Well, and the kids laugh. All of them, that is, except Brian. He sits there wondering which is worse, being laughed at or being ignored. The next day, when Justin goes to his cubby to put away his backpack, he notices a piece of paper with his name on it. It's a note that says, "Justin, I thought the bulgogi looked good. Brian." At morning recess, Brian finds a piece of chalk on the ground and starts drawing away. Justin approaches and said, "You're Brian, right?" "Yeah." "Thanks for the note." "Hey, Justin," Emilio calls out from the tetherball court. "You're up next." "Sorry, gotta go," says Justin. "By the way, that's a really cool drawing," he adds before taking off. Back in class, Mrs. Carlotti asked the kids to team up in 2s or 3s for a special project. The kids scurry around the room to pair off. Brian heads toward Justin. "I'm already with Justin," says Emilio. "Find someone else." Brian looks at the floor, wishing he could draw a hole right there to swallow him up. Then Justin says, "Mrs. Carlotti says we can have up to 3 people in our group. We're only 2. Come on, Emilio. Let him work with us." "Okay, I guess," Emilio agreed. Mrs. Carlotti gives the class directions for the project. "Your assignment is to work together to write a story about what you see in that photograph. Use your imagination and have fun." "Whoa, cool," says Emilio. "What kind of people do you think would live in houses that look like that?" "I don't know, but I bet Brian could draw them to go with our story," says Justin. Brian smiles as he takes out his lucky pen. It's lunchtime again. Brian's least favorite part of the day. Another long 20 minutes of kids talking and laughing with everyone else but him. "Brian," he hears someone shout. "Hey, Brian, over here." Brian turns and sees Justin waving him over. Emilio nods at Brian as he makes room for him at the table. Maybe, just maybe, Brian's not so invisible after all. I invite our children and youth to go to their classes and practice really seeing each other.
Our Board of Trustees has asked me to light the candles this morning, and we have candles to light for one longtime member, 99-year-old Peggy Cadenhead, who helped start our care team and served in many roles over the years of her lifetime. She passed away this Friday, and so we light a candle for Peggy Cadenhead and all the wonderful blessings that she gave to this church in her lifetime. And we'll continue to carry on that love into the future ourselves. We're also lighting a candle for our program minister, Nicole Kirk, who is home with a stomach bug, and we hope that she gets well very soon. And I want to light a candle for an Everywhere member who put in the chat. He is from Italy and watching with us. Gianluigi is recently recovering from surgery. So we light a candle for you in Italy, and we light a candle for all those in California who are braving the fires and all the destruction and devastation of property and life. We send a special blessing to them this morning. At this time, if there's someone you'd like to bring into our service and into this space, please call out their name and I'll light a candle for them as well. Beautiful. All the candles are lit this morning. And at this time, if you're in the first year of the death of a loved one in your life, or this Sunday is the closest Sunday to the anniversary of the death of a loved one, we invite you to stand now in the silence in memory and mourning. Now you may be seated as Francia Allen leads us in our prayer.
Holy One of love and grace, we give thanks for every open mind and humbled heart here today, seeking to connect with this community of love and together share an experience that will lift up our hearts, steady our souls, and guide us along whatever path we may be on. May today's service bless us in the way that we need it most. We give you thanks. Amen.
My body won't hold me anymore, and it finally lets me free. Will I be ready when my feet won't walk another mile and my lips give their last kiss goodbye? Will my hands be steady when I lay down my fears, my hopes and my doubts, the rings on my fingers and the keys to my house, with no hard feelings. When the sun hangs low in the west and the light in my chest won't be kept, held at bay any longer, and then jealousy fades away, and it's ash and dust for cash and lust, and it's just hallelujah, and loving the thoughts and loving the words, loving the songs they sing in the church, and no hard feelings. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. When my body won't hold me anymore and it finally lets me free, where will I go? Will the trade winds take me south through the Georgia grain, or the tropical rain, or the snow from the heaven? Will I join with the ocean blue, or run into the Savior true and shake hands laughing, walk through the night and straight to the light, holding the love I've known in my life, and no hard feelings. Lord knows they haven't done much good for anyone, kept me afraid and cold, with so much to have and hold. Under the curving sky, I'm finally learning why to say it and mean it too. It matters for me and you, for life and its loveliness, and all of its ugliness, good as it's been to me. I have no enemy, I have no enemy, I have no enemies, I have no enemies.
That is a beautiful song. John, you sang it and played it so well. Thank you. Yes, I'm sure you can tell I'm breathing it in and breathing it out in the All Souls tradition. But it's not peace and love. It's gratitude and appreciation and a heartfelt thank you for letting me do this, for having me up here today. I want to thank my fellow trustees, the ministers, and this congregation for this precious moment you're giving me, for this opportunity to address you and to give a message that I would like for you to take with you and remember forever. This is a moment I know I will remember forever. Thank you, and good morning, All Souls. Good morning. When I came up through the processional, turned around, it was a gripping moment because it looked like my life in front of me. Because I see here so many people from so many different parts of my life, so many different relationships. Just incredible. Thank all of you for coming. I see people from Lee School 70 years ago, 8 blocks up the street. I can remember some of their phone numbers. It's just incredible. I see people from Edison High School, a mile or so down the road. I like to think I got started at Lee and then jump-started at Edison. Isn't that the truth? But I see people from my men's group, my running club, different things I'm involved in the community, and that really makes me feel good. It's just like, what a vote of confidence. Thank you so much for coming. All these relationships mean a lot. I look around here and I see people that I've helped at times in life, helped some people get through things, had your back, but more so I look around and I see how many of you have had mine and have carried me, individuals, groups, organizations, and the arms of this church wrapped around me for such a long time. It's precious, and I thank you so much. I want to talk a little bit about relationships because when I talk about grace, I'm going to be talking about compassion and kindness, each of us to the other, positioning us for grace. That is our grace, grace in relationship. Now, I'm going to mention one thing now, and I will mention it a few more times, I think, in the next few minutes. You can't be right or wrong alone. Think about this. You can't. You can't be ethical alone. You can only be right or wrong in relationship. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean one person. It can mean all kinds of things. And as you'll hear in a minute, the Buddhists think it's all of us, sacred, all connected, everything. But you can't be right or wrong alone. And we're not alone. And this church is all about being not alone and being together and caring for each other and caring for ourselves. There's so many things in life that are really indescribable, just when you think about it. Love, holding the hand of a dying person, feeling their transition as you feel your own during that time. Colors, light, energy, spirit. How many of these things you just end up saying, well, this color is like this other color. And our spoken word in any language doesn't quite get there a lot of times. And this is sort of like grace. Everybody has a different way of feeling it or saying it or describing it. The dictionary is not necessarily right. But I'm going to propose a definition of grace to start today. Grace is the here and the now, in this space, in this setting, right now, us. This is grace. And John Wolfe said it better than any of us. John Wolfe was the senior minister at this church from 1960 to 1997. He was the one who so vigorously defended this 9 square foot area that I'm fidgeting around in as being the most powerful, the most sacred, also the freest 9 square feet in the world. Say what you want with impunity, say what you want with immunity, you're fully protected. And so, of course, there's some risk. But that was John Wolfe. And I want to share some thoughts that John Wolfe had about grace. But I want to take you on a short journey. And if you'd like to close your eyes, that's fine. If you'd like to just sort of be still and think. But I also want you to think about the person next to you, the person who's important in your life, somebody who's significant, somebody who's hurting, somebody you're helping, somebody you're in relationship with. A familiar scene, sometimes take it for granted. You walk into the church sanctuary knowing your sins aren't forgiven and not seeking forgiveness. You're in the company of many who are there because of an experience in life, something that happened that was unjust, causing them to lose faith. Worse, according to Wolf. A good number of your fellow worshipers have lost sight of the beauty in metaphor. Can't stand poetry, are so covered with guilt and grief, they can't see the forest for the trees, can't imagine what good exists. These broken spirits lack the higher purpose that adds value to life, and they need to have it restored. They are questioning, doubting, seeking, exploring. They are the All Souls congregation. You sense a feeling of fullness of being, that there is far more here, that the world is pregnant with possibility. You're struck by the refulgent nature seen through the windows. You feel the amazing miracle of everything, that there isn't anything that isn't a miracle. You know, these are the reasons we're here, gathered in covenant, believing not in anything so much as in everything. Wolf says this setting is grace, and that we are justified by grace and grace alone, that love beyond belief is the standard of grace. Do I hear a yes, church? Yes. Do I hear a yes, David?
Yes.
As I look around all these faces, I know that there are many here who have suffered, been vulnerable, had difficult times, just like me. We're all in it together. We've all had different issues. We've all needed each other, and we still do, and we always will. If you have a broken spirit, you don't have a full life. You cannot appreciate the beauty in metaphor. If you can't appreciate the beauty in metaphor, you can't appreciate literature, music, art, nature, wildlife, poetry. And it's sad because you then can't absorb these things and you can't share them. When you're kind and compassionate with others, you can't quite get there because you don't have these things, because you have a broken spirit. It can be restored, and that's what we're all about, but from time to time, we have broken spirit, and I've had mine, and I'm going to share that with you shortly. In the Jewish faith, it is said that God expects us to offer each other undeserved kindness. Acting with grace gives one a certain sense of agency or control. Viktor Frankl probably suffered as much as anybody we can imagine. His family was rounded up and put in the concentration camps during the Holocaust. His elderly parents died in the gas chambers. His wife died of typhus, but Viktor Frankl lived through it and became someone who has devoted his life to writing about the Holocaust. And the way he described it is that grace is the last of the human freedoms. And when you think about this, a lot can be taken away from us short of life. But one thing that can never be taken away from us is the right to act with kindness and compassion in any circumstance in life. And if Viktor Frankl said this after what he's been through, and after what Reverend Randy told us 2 weeks ago about Nelson Mandela, who accepted his captors after 27 years in prison, then it applies to us too. This agency that we have, which is human and distinguishes us as human, is something we should all consider in our relationships with others. The Lama Surya Das, a well-known Buddhist poet and author, in his book, Awakening the Buddha Within, says grace is the is-ness of life. Is-ness. Think about this, that everything is sacred and connected, that grace is in us, we share grace, it's the is-ness. I love that word, and that's the title of my message, Grace, the is-ness of life. I'd like to have you remember that, because I think it's really something, if you think about, it reminds you of kindness and compassion in any circumstance against all odds. Now, I don't like to dwell on the grief of others without them knowing mine, so I'll share some of mine with you. I like to think of my life as up to age 45 and after. Call it part 1 and part 2. When I was 45, I was actually giddy with life. Giddy. I was so excited about everything. I'd had a lot of education, I had a promising career, I had a beautiful wife, a beautiful daughter, a beautiful son, a millionaire's family. I was in excellent health, I was very fit. I seemed to have a lot of friends, an active social life, nice home out in the suburbs. And I just kept pinching myself, saying, this can only get better. It's going to get better. It's the best, and it's going to get better. That was part 1. Right at about age 45, things didn't get better. The first thing that scared me was my divorce. I didn't see it coming. I tried to save my marriage. And when it didn't work, I started getting scared. And I really realize now that I didn't have the infrastructure in place that should have been there to keep me from getting scared, but I was. And I never lived with my children again after that, something I regret to this day. Not too long after that, I lost my father, then I lost my mother, then I lost the mother of my children. Along the way, I lost a couple of jobs that I probably should have held on to. I lost 2 wonderful dogs that I loved. And it just seemed like these things started happening, and it got worse. And about 6 years ago, the fragile bottom of this existence collapsed. The bottom fell out. And that's when my son committed suicide. And it was a really difficult thing to deal with. I went to the funeral service to deal with my son's remains and to make some arrangements. And I don't remember that day very well. I don't remember that meeting. I don't remember what was said and done and signed and what arrangements were made. But most of all, I remember the person in charge of that meeting said something to me that has stuck in my craw forever. And it was like getting in my craw, pulling out my spirit and breaking it. He said, I won't let you see the body. I won't let you see the body. I didn't ask to see it. I didn't want to see it. But he said that. Now, as I think back on that day, I think he might have been doing what should be done, and he might have thought it was kind. I thought it was the worst 7 words that anybody could have selected. Now, I never really shared this with anyone. I travel a fair amount in my work around the country. I've got so I don't like traveling alone much, because when I go to airports especially, and I see fathers and sons hugging, saying congratulations, saying hello, goodbye, I love you, Godspeed, whatever it might be, that's when the tears start to come. And that's when I start to think, here, remember, I won't let you see the body. And this is something that you don't get over, but it is something that relationships help. Usually, it's people in your life. And for me, it's been my life partner, Myra. Myra, I love you so much. More than I can tell you. Love beyond love. Thank you. And Diane, what a gift you are. So fortunate to have you in my life. So, obviously, I've walked through the shadow of the valley of death, and I've got some authority to talk about it. I feel I've got some experience about it, but people aren't the only thing. It can be signs and wonders and other metaphors. I was in a particularly despairing mood sometime last summer. And in our great room of our home, we've got a vaulted ceiling 27 feet up. I mean, it's almost like this. And on the east and west sides, there are window panes 27 feet up. So you can kind of see east, west, and up in the sky. And I was lying down on the floor trying to get up enough energy or courage to just do my stretching, just to do some stretching. That's what I was intending to do. I was lying there. All of a sudden, from nowhere, but I like to think it was from heaven, against the glass, 25 feet from where I was lying, appeared a beautiful, big, wild, somewhat frightening red-tailed hawk. And that hawk was against the glass and doing all this, lasted about 4 seconds, might have been just seeing himself or chasing another bird, but I'm pretty sure he was talking to me. And what he said to me was, Phil, get up off the floor, get up off your back, get up off your butt, stand up, look straight, be tall, go forward. There are people who love you. There are people who need you. There are people who need to nourish your spirit. There are people who need to understand your spirit and benefit from it. And you know what? I felt so much better after that hawk talked to me. And you may have had similar experiences. At home, we have hummingbirds coming and flying in like a military formation. We have families of deer, and I'll look out there, and they'll look at me and say, "You're in there? You're out there? How's this work?" But if you can see the beauty in metaphor, your life is so rich compared to not having these things. And if you break a person's spirit, I mean, I felt broken after my son died, but I don't anymore. I feel like I've kind of got it back. And as I prepared this message, I started exploring other kinds of grace, and everybody has a different impression of a higher power or God or some sort of God or living by a covenant. But what I seem to see, what I noticed was, what recurs here is that no matter what that is, it's the preparation during your life, the preparation in relationship. If you live in a relationship of compassion and kindness, you're best poised for grace, one way or another. You're actually exercising grace to be ready for it. And I think that this church is an excellent example of that. We live, according to John Wolfe and me, two good authorities, we are living in grace, and I am so pleased to be part of it. So I'm going to give one more reading by John Wolfe that I think is really relevant. Love beyond belief, practiced by a congregation, means living by standards and affecting others through compassion and kindness. This is essentially our covenant. Grace isn't guaranteed, but life in relationship best practice improves the odds. If it happens, it just happens. It is simply amazing.
Good morning. My name is Sherry Swanwick, and I'm the first vice president of the Board of Trustees. In a moment, we'll be taking an offering for the Martin Luther King Commemoration Society. But before we do that, let me invite you to a number of things that are happening this week and throughout the month at the church. If you are ready to join or would like to know more about becoming a member of All Souls, you can meet with us today at 11:15 in room 203 upstairs. And those folks who are new or newish to All Souls are invited to Soren Library, just outside the sanctuary to the left, as Eileen had said previously. You'll be welcomed by our team of welcoming souls, and they'll have refreshments for you. They're there to answer your questions about the church, the history, our programs, and more. And this afternoon at 1 to 3:30, join us in the Emerson Hall for a Justice Jam. This is your chance to learn more about the work that our All Souls Justice teams do, plus connect with others who share your passion and discover how you may contribute and help make a difference. And then on January 15th, our Wednesday dinner, chapel, and childcare returns, and it will be returning in to make connections and community. Staying alive in 25. Come march with us in the MLK parade. That's on January 20th on a Monday. And the float preparation is on Sunday, January 19th. You'll find more about that online and in your program. Our green team invites you to a climate justice revival on Sunday, January 26th. There will be a workshop, interactive sessions, and a climate-focused humanist hour. Registered to attend on our website. For more information on these events and many activities, you can check this out in your order of service or on the website. You know that it is our tradition here at this church to give our plate away to nonprofit organizations in our community and beyond that are doing good works. We do this as a practice of our living values of generosity, love, and service. This week's offering will go to Martin Luther King Jr. Commemoration Society. The society is a nonprofit organization dedicated to the life and works and legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Through diverse programs and events, the society strives to inspire individuals and communities to carry forward his vision of equality, justice, and unity, and fostering a better future for all of us. I know that many of you are concerned about the tragedy that's happening in California and would hope that we would be donating to them. We will be next week, and it will be an ongoing for weeks and months, so we may give again. So now, if you will, we'll be giving your donations. We hope that you will give freely.
thank you for being part of our grand experiment today. The board members would love to greet you in the foyer after the service. As you leave this place, may grace be a part of the is-ness of your life. May you offer it readily and without requirements. May you accept it with a grateful heart and awareness of the gift. Go forth, be blessed, and be a blessing. Amen.